Then said he unto them, a certain man made a great supper and bade many. Now Jesus is telling a story. He's done several things that have embarrassed his host already. He was at the home of a Pharisee, and he healed a man on that day because it was the Sabbath day and he wasn't supposed to in their eyes. He said, all right, if you have an ox that falls in the ditch, wouldn't you help him out of the ditch on Sabbath? And they didn't say anything. And they knew that he had them. And then he also told another story about a wedding. Then he tells this story. A certain man made a great supper, and he bade many. In other words, he invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for all is now ready. They used to send their invitations out weeks in advance, and then on a day or two before the dinner, they sent another invitation, a more personal invitation to come. And they didn't sit in chairs like we do, and they didn't have name tags at the table. They just came rushing in. Sometimes they'd tear the table up, trying to get to the best place so they'd be near the host or get the best food or the best wine. And that's how they got there. But Jesus was at this feast, and this had been invited. And he was sitting there telling them the story of another feast. And he told this story to illustrate a spiritual truth. And so this guy sent his servant at supper time to say to all of them, come, for all is now ready. And they all with one consent began to make excuse. The first said unto him, I bought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee have me excused. And another said, I bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee have me excused. And another said, I've married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that servant came and showed his Lord these things. Then the master of the house was angry, and said to his servant, go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, all that's been done just as you've commanded, but there's still room. And the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come into my house, and that they may be filled. For I say unto you that none of those that were invited shall taste of my supper. While eating, he uses these 2 stories to tell a very serious truth. Because these people have a special need that he's talking about. I read the other day, I saw on television about a body scanner, a new one that they've got, which can monitor minute chemical changes within disease cells and virtually as they take place. All-seeing eyes to give a total readout of all that ails you. Now God also has a scanner, and God is scanning you tonight. He's scanning your heart and your mind and your soul and your spirit, and he sees the spiritual need in your life. And Jesus was saying that we all have spiritual need. There's a universal guilt. We're all guilty of breaking God's law. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Romans in the 3rd chapter, now we know that whatsoever things the law saith, it saith to them that are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped and all the world become guilty before God. Nobody is ever going to be at the judgment and say, Lord, I didn't do that. That scanner has been scanning from the moment you were conceived in your mother's womb. The computers have been running. The motion pictures have been taken, not only of your deeds, but of your thoughts.